Hello there and welcome to the Irish Film London podcast. I'm your host, Niamh Brannigan, and I'm usually joined by Jerry Maguire, but this week is going to be a little bit different because we have finally kicked off our annual Irish Film London Festival. So, as you can imagine, everyone is running around London making sure everything is in order to bring you the best festival, and we really hope to see some of you there. We're also going to bring you guys new episodes throughout the festival to keep you up to date on everything that's going on. So go to our website and check out everything we have in store, especially our industry events. Because whatever about missing a film, hopefully in the future there'll be an opportunity to catch it again. But industry panels and Q&As are amazing opportunities and experiences, so definitely come along to those. Today we are opening our festival with Aisha at 7 p.m. in the View Cinema in the West End, directed by Frank Berry, who Jerry caught up with prior to our opening gala tonight. Enjoy, guys. If you're part of the regular Irish Film London audience or want to get more from your experience, consider joining our growing family of members for a range of exciting benefits. Irish Film London is a non-for-profit organisation. Our mission is to promote the best new Irish film to audiences all over the UK, and with the help of this podcast, the world. If you become a festival friend or a festival champion, you get perks like discounted tickets for films and events, free access to Irish Film from Home films, and invites to networking events, and so much more. So check it out now.
So, Frank, thank you very much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to be speaking to you ahead of our London preview of Aisha. How are you? You must be busy ahead of this big release schedule.
Yes, very busy. It's great to meet you as well, Jerry. Really great. We're finally chatting. Yeah, it's a busy week because it's the week before we have the Cork Film Festival this week. It's the Irish premiere, and then release next week. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. So yeah.
Well, look, I want to dive straight into talking about the film because I know that we don't have you for very long this morning. So, I mean, look, I haven't watched the film now a couple of times at LFF, and the Sky team were really helpful in sort of furnishing me with a link so I could watch it again ahead of our big screen. And, you know, it's a really special film, and it's talking about some quite big topics. I wondered if we might start by getting you to tell me how you might describe Aisha as a film for people who haven't seen or heard of it yet.
Yeah. I mean, Aisha is a film that looks at the direct provision system in Ireland, and it's told to the experience of our main character, Aisha, who is a young Nigerian a woman who comes to Ireland seeking protection. And when she's in Ireland, she befriends an Irish person who works in the centre. And the film looks at their relationship really, and how that very simple human connection is affected by the system, basically. So the idea was really just to take a human story and put it in this inhumane system, just to express in a real way the her experiences in that system.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big topic to deal with, isn't it? Like direct provision is something that's it's talked about a lot, I think, from in certain areas, and it's something that maybe people outside of Ireland aren't massively aware of. But you know, from the UK context, there's a bit of a link in sort of current affairs at the minute in terms of what's going on at certain detention centres and this sort of hostile environment policy that the UK government has and everything. I mean, you know, was there a reason why you decided that that this was an issue that you had to tackle in this film?
Well, the film was this film started when I was researching my last film, which is about the Irish prison system. And I came across the fact that at that time, the Irish prison system and the immigration system were both being run by the Department of Justice, the same department, which I just wanted to know more about. Obviously, the immigration system in Ireland exists in my name as an Irish citizen, and I just wanted to know more about what the experiences were of people coming to Ireland seeking protection. So that's when I started. I made contact with Lucky Kambule, who was one of the co-founders of the Movement of Asylum Seekers Ireland, and I used to meet Lucky on a weekly basis and talk to him about the reality of direct provision, and I was introduced to more people, and I went on a journey then for over years of listening, basically, and collaborating. So in terms of the international, and we've screened the film in America, and we've screened the film obviously in the UK, and the conversations around the film in those internationally has been really about immigration systems in general, and about state-built barriers in different places. And the film, I think, encourages or creates a space for conversations about immigration systems in various countries. At the very, very center of the film, there's a human connection between two people, and the film looks at that connection in the context of where it's taking place. So I think it encourages conversations about immigration systems, and encourages people to think about the systems that exist in their names and their countries. So this is in an Irish context, but I think internationally it's providing conversation or inspiring conversations of immigration systems in different countries.
Yeah, I think it's something that definitely translates really well. So obviously it's a huge issue across lots of different places. But I think, like, more generally outside of this film, you're what we might call, I suppose, like, big air quotes here, but like a social issue filmmaker. What does it mean to you to make films like this? I mean, were you always drawn to making films in this way that are sort of researched and, that have a basis or a grounding in something that's happening in the real world?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a big plan. When I started, when I left college, I started making films, and I made some short films. I made a small bit of TV drama, but I wasn't finding any of it really. I felt like I wasn't seeing myself in the work. And so I was teaching at the time, and I started making local videos, community videos. I made quite a lot of them, and the themes were a lot of the times around education and around social disadvantage. And that somebody said to me early on, actually, the advice I got was, go where the warmth is, go where you feel good, And even though these community videos weren't, they were just local, and they were DVDs, basically, you would give to a group who were doing good work and who wanted to use the DVD as a promotional tool to whatever message they had. And then I made a feature documentary with that process, and that was just very significant to me. I felt great after that, because I felt like I'd made the film my own way. I wasn't trying to adapt or survive, and I felt like I did it in a way that felt right to me. And as soon as that happened, that led to more projects, and I started to gain confidence in just the process, as I said, of listening and expressing something that I feel is important. So it wasn't a grand plan to be a social realist, social issue based filmmaker. It was just organic, really, and I find the process just satisfying, I suppose.
Yeah, but sure, isn't it so important, like, to do something that really strikes a chord with you? I mean, in all forms of art and creativity, it's so important to focus in on the issues that feel important to you, whether that's things that you feel are important to share with people, or, in this case, you're talking about both things. You're talking about those things that you feel are important on a social level, but also that's what engages you as a filmmaker, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always felt that when you're engaged in the work, if you're using your character, your personality, if you feel like you're expressing from within, that means something's going right. Whereas if you're constantly trying to kind of meet the situation, change yourself to try and survive, then you're not in your natural space. So whenever I'm sitting in a community center or in an environment, and I'm spending a lot. I feel like I work there. You know, I spend so long in places, and you know, and then when the project ends, it feels like you're leaving a job, really. You know, but you maintain I've maintained contact with everybody I've made kind of films with, because you spend so long with them. You know. But when I'm sitting there, I feel I'm in the right place in the world. I feel like this feels where I should be, you know. And I don't ask questions at the beginning, and I don't kind of probe. I'm not looking for information. What I try and do at the beginning is it's all about not getting information, but trust. And if you gain trust and if you bond with people, then you know the story emerges, and things happen organically, as opposed to just going in like a journalist, really, and just with a notebook and pen. And no one ever sees me write anything down or ask questions, you know. And I think that feels right to me, you know.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's lovely to hear, because like I think one of the things about Aisha, the film, that really struck me was like there's a warmth and a compassion that comes out of the performances and the characters that you've created in it, which on the one hand I think probably reflects that process a little bit, because it sounds to me like there's a warmth and a compassion built into that process at the same time, but it's also a film which it's dealing with some really, really heavy issues. You know, the characters, the two main characters in it, both in their own ways, have been through so much, and it would be very easy, I think, to make something that's really sort of, you know, pale blue and kitchen sinky and everything, and that's not what you've done here at all. There's something really watchable and really like. I don't want to reduce it to just saying something very humanizing, but actually that is what it does. You know, you take the story of somebody who is quite other to many people in Ireland and the UK, and you've made this character of an outsider feel very warm and friendly and approachable, and the way that you've crafted the world around them, they're both so gentle to each other. That, you know, that must have been a conscious decision.
Yeah, it's, well, you always, with a film, you always want it, first of all, to feel real, but also you want the audience to connect with the characters in a human way. And you know, I think very often, you know, in some films you feel like it's kind of over engineered, really. And what I try and do is we do a lot of talking. Well, first of all, there's years of talking and discussing the film, and you know, there's so much research goes into it. But then when the actors join, there's a process begins where we talk about the years of research that I've done, and I introduced Letitia to people who've been through the direct provision system, and with Josh, talked a lot about the men that I worked with while making Michael Inside, who were kind of, you know, who many of them had been through prison due to drugs, but were in a positive educational space and were kind of trying. And that was the conversations with Josh earlier, was about how he's trying, and like when he says, oh, if I get onto an access course, then I can do this, and I can get, you know, and I heard that so many times, people having a plan, you know, and sometimes they'd fall off, sometimes they'd have a slip and they go back to prison, or they go back into addiction, you know, but it's just so moving to hear that. And so and then with Letitia, we talked a lot about the barriers in Ireland, and about how difficult it is to live in direct provision, and how protracted the legal system is, and all of those things. And then I introduced Letitia and Josh to Lucky Cambile in pre-production as well. And so the process is really that all of that conversation happens so that everybody feels bonded and making the same film, and also empowered. So then when you get on set, I don't need to say, be imposing in my direction, because everybody feels very kind of clear about what we're doing. And when you get out of the way like that, then you allow, obviously, all our cast are really talented, every last person.
Yeah.
And they just, you can see the performances coming from within. And that's where the human quality in the film and the audience's connection with the characters comes from. You know, it comes from those naturalistic kind of performances.
Definitely. I have to say as well, I love that link between Michael and Side through Josh's character in this as well. There's a lovely sort of sense of progression of your work in a sense, and of the research and the intervention that you make in film to showcase these people's lives. I guess that's what's really nice.
Well, thanks, Jay. I mean, but I try. I'm always suspicious of a big idea, or maybe this should, this is just my own process of it. This is purely for myself, but I don't trust myself when I have an idea. I always try and find the elements of the story in the world, and this film kind of started while I was making my last film. So in those early conversations, we start talking about a human connection, and start talking about what this film might be. Then that was the obvious place to go, because that's where the film began, so I try, and then or it just feels right. Then it just go, okay, that feels right, and there's no doubt. Oh, is this a good idea or not? And it's just it feels organic,
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it must have been such a joy working with immensely talented cast members like Letitia and Josh. I mean, their performances in this film are outstanding. Letitia's character is somebody who you feel for from the very, very start. Josh O'Connor, if I didn't know who he was, I would swear he was born and raised in Dublin. Fair play to him for nailing the accent, I think.
He put a lot of work into that, and he came over early, and he immersed himself in the process. He immersed himself here and spoke to people on the street, even though it was during lockdown. He did a lot of work, and the early conversations with Josh, he really, really got the character and loved the script, and he was committed to the role very much, so he put a lot of work in. But the cast, we have Lorcan Cranach in this film with Dennis Conway, Stuart Graham, Ruth McCabe, Anthony Doyle. We have amazing cast, and so that they're just absolute pleasure. It was a wonderful team, wonderful team.
Amazing. I mean, what was the shoot like then? It was sort of, you were still sort of in lockdown when this was being put together, right?
Yeah, the shoot was it was a COVID shoot, so you just had to get on with it. But I suppose in film we're used to just adapting to problems that are curveballs and problems every day, and this quickly became normal. Really, I was worried about directing with a mask on, to be honest, because you're trying to create. It's an intimate relationship, really, with all the cast, and you want to, but it was fine, actually. You just get used to it, really, and we had a wonderful COVID officer, became part of the team. He wasn't like finger wagging, he was great, so it worked out. We just did it. We got on with it, and it was grand in the end.
Yeah, one thing when you say all that, it makes me realize, having watched the film a couple of times now, like, it doesn't feel like it's from that period in time. There's so many films that were forced into a position where there's less people on screen, and it feels like an emptier world with fewer characters and so on, which was sort of necessary for a lot of indie films at the time to adapt to that kind of shooting style. And this doesn't feel like one of those. It feels like it's quite a rich environment with lots of people and lots of characters in it, and people crossing frame and stuff like this. It feels like a busy, well-populated environment, and there's no sense of all that sort of like COVID safety stuff that would have had to happen.
Yeah, I mean, for this film, it was just very important that what's represented on screen is close to reality. So the compromise that you might make on a film that's not doesn't have the same aims as us, perhaps they're different, but for us, the living conditions, the environment was very important to get right, So I made that clear early on in prep that whatever the difficulties are with COVID and all of that, there's some things that we have to get right, otherwise, as I said earlier, it just undermines the film, So it had like we shot in a direct provision center, a previous direct provision center,
right?
And we made great efforts to make sure that the somebody who's been through the system will look at this film and will recognize it to be true,
Right, yeah. So I mean, in that sense, do you feel like this is a film that's as much for people who have been through this as much as it is a sort of a film that exposes this to everyone else?
Yeah, I think it's both. Yeah, I think it's both, definitely,
Wow.
And I think, it creates, hopefully it'll create a space for everybody to talk about it, to talk about the system. And I mean, as I said, there's been an enormous campaign from activists, artists, writers, citizens over the last few years to just object to this system and to demand that it's dismantled, and which the government have now pledged to do. So I just hope that this film adds is just a voice to add to the chorus of objection, really, and maybe it might create environments where you can watch the film and then just open up a conversation about what you've seen. I think that's a purposeful thing to do,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure it's going to do that. I mean, we've had so many conversations about it here already at Irish Film London. It's a very special film for us already. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward for people to see it at Irish Film Festival London on the 16th of November. I know it's playing at Cork Film Festival. Is it before or after us in Cork?
It's this week, actually. It's Thursday. Yeah, it's the Irish premiere in Cork.
Brilliant. So Irish premiere in Cork, and then back to London after it being at London Film Festival in October, and then it's out in
then it's out on the 17th. So the day after the London screening, it'll be out in cinemas in the UK and Ireland, and also on Sky as well, Sky Cinema.
Brilliant. So yeah, we recommend everyone to go and grab it while they can, and get a look at Aisha, and tell us what you think. Frank, thank you so much for joining me. I know you've got to go and do another interview probably.
Yes, that's right. But Jerry, just so thank you and all the team there so much for your support, and we're so honored to be opening the festival. So I'm just very, very grateful to you and for this and just for supporting our film. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Frank. It's a real pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Great. Take it easy. Thank you.
And that's it for this week's interview. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you to Culture Ireland and the Irish Emigrant Support Programme. Myself and Jerry will be back with a brand new interview. See you then.